Hampton Morris, man, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
100%. Normally, anybody who watches the program regularly would know that my co-host, Adrian Bosman, is conspicuously absent, but sadly he was pulled in a different direction. So his loss. We're just gonna have a great chat, man. I'd love to share your story with people and hopefully create some new fans by the end of this episode is my intention. And I should say, as I normally forget to do, we appreciate everybody watching and listening. Go to btwb.com. If you own a gym of any sort, you can get workout tracking, gym management, and billing, and it's all in one. So go to btwb.com for that. CrossFit gym, powerlifting gym, Olympic gym, doesn't matter. And then if you want to help support Very Not Random, go to verynotrandom.com and check out all the cycles that we offer. Get your first pull-up or do all kinds of other cool stuff. Okay, so now with that stuff out of the way, man, maybe for those who don't know you, you are about to represent the United States of America in the Olympics, man. You're an Olympian. What does that feel like? 20 years old, correct?
Yes, sir. 20 years old.
Wow, man. Just walk me through that. Like, what do your friends think about it?
Uh, I mean, a lot of my friends are people that I know through weightlifting who have
Okay. It's like when you're in the
seen me.
mafia, all of your friends are also in the mafia.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of them have, watched me grow up, just um, grow up in the sport, and
Mm-hmm. They're not,
you
are
know,
they,
so
did everyone see this coming? They're like, okay, look, Hampton, you're talented, man. Like you stick with this, it's gonna go there. Or, did you start out in a pool of young kids that got involved in the sport, showed talent right away, or did it take you a while to you obviously rose above your peers in some way, shape, or form if you're heading off to Paris. So what was that journey like?
yeah. So for me, it felt really like the progression from local to national to international and up through the different like age groups. All of it felt really natural, very step by step. Um, and my dad, who's my coach, I think he kind of did that on purpose. So there were some we would always prioritize like the youth meets over senior
Okay.
um, when I was still young enough to do youth. Um, and so really it felt kind of natural uh, rising through the different levels of competition. Um, I mean, I didn't really, I never really seriously thought about the Olympics until the start of this quad when it,
Okay.
became apparent that I'd have a shot at it. You know, like everybody that's like young and in a sports, you know, kind of daydreams about going to the Olympics someday, but it really didn't feel real until the start of this quad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eh, How old were you when you first got into this sport?
Um, my first my first local weightlifting meet was I was 12 years old.
Okay. I've got so many questions. So I guess getting back to the Olympics thing, when you said at the start of this quad, it entered your mind, maybe each athlete's wired a bit differently. Are you the sort of person that did you allow that to enter your mind and the thought of it is like cool and motivating or inspirational? Or were you like, I want to keep that out a bit because it seems like that's a lot of pressure and I'm going to just compartmentalize that?
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely it definitely can be an intimidating goal, but I feel like I've learned really well how to deal with that kind of pressure
Okay.
of like feeling like I need to perform well, um, and that part of that has felt natural. Part of it I've had to learn. Um, but
Well, since you brought it up, it's actually a question that I had, right? Because regardless of whether weightlifting is your sport, baseball is your sport, my sons play basketball.
yeah,
Every athlete feels pressure to some degree, right? And
yeah,
most human beings, you're like whatever it is, you could have the
yeah,
big meeting at
absolutely.
work, like there's pressure, and you see, regardless of the pressure, there are some people who seem to focus when the pressure comes and perform, and other people fold when the pressure
Yeah,
comes and underperform. Some people have like amazing gym numbers, but their competition numbers don't line up to you. Like, you're amazing in the gym. Like, what's happening when you walk out there? And other people like bring it, when
hmm
the lights come out. Was that, were you just always cool as a cucumber under pressure, or was there some sort of habit you learned that maybe people watching and listening would really benefit from?
and it's a little of both. Um, so naturally, I am a very relaxed, kind of go with the flow kind of person.
Okay.
Um, but I have had to learn one of the best lessons that I've learned because of weightlifting that my dad taught me um, is uh, the when things go wrong, the only thing that you can do is keep keep chugging along, just
Sure.
focus on what's in your control. Don't think about what's already happened because you can't change it. You know?
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true, and easy to sit there and nod along with you, like, yeah, but hard to do in the moment when things aren't going, your
Yeah.
way. If you go out on
Absolutely.
stage, maybe, and it's a lift that matters, or a competition that matters, and maybe they all do. So, pardon my ignorance, and maybe one lift that was supposed to go away doesn't, and you walk off stage and you're going to have another attempt at it. Do you like a goldfish and you just forget about that one right away, or do you have something that you're telling yourself in your head before you walk back out there to hopefully have a different outcome?
Yeah. So I try to really, if there's something to be learned from it, then absolutely figure out what went wrong and apply that to the next lift. But just you can't let it bother you. You need to stay focused on the next thing. Um, again, just only what's in your control.
Can we talk for a second how just cool it is that your dad is your coach? And maybe, I don't know if
Yeah,
that's a good, I'm sure maybe there's pros and cons to,
yeah,
being.
definitely pros and cons. But it has been amazing to have him just along with me the entire journey. Um,
Does your dad have a history of coaching Olympians?
no, no. Uh,
How is he so good at it?
he he really cares about my success and that really cares about me achieving my goals. Um, he even before I was a weightlifter or before I got into weightlifting, I played soccer and he would coach my rec league teams.
Okay.
Um, my sister plays soccer, and when she was in the rec leagues, he would coach her teams too. Um, so he definitely really cares about being involved in that way. Um, but
It's amazing. I mean, it's what an incredible accomplishment. You have people that devote their entire professional career to being a coach of various people and might never get, you know, paired with an athlete. Or it's an incredible story of father and son, both heading over to Paris to represent the United States. It's really incredible as far as I'm
yeah,
concerned, and very unique.
yeah, I definitely, if I were to look for another coach, I would absolutely not be able to find anyone who would pour over everything and just be as as thorough as he is. And I'd say a lot of the reason that he is like that is because he's my dad.
I mean, 100%. I'm sure there's a lot of coaches that tell their athletes that they love them and care about them. And there's
Yeah,
probably a lot that do. But I
absolutely.
mean,
Yeah,
this is your father. I
yeah,
mean, that's an entirely
yeah.
different deal. And you are, okay, 20 years old and you are 61 kilogram weight class? Is that,
Yes, sir.
okay. And so for, representing the United States, let's go ahead and use some pounds. That's 134 pounds roughly.
Yeah, just about. Yeah,
Okay,
right
so
about that.
so people watching this are going to be so astonished when I throw out some of your numbers. And I know a lot of your numbers, not because I follow you on Instagram, but you've been posting on btwb forever. I mean, you've got,
Yeah,
I did some digging. You have 7,570 different sessions logged.
yeah. And I'm honestly, I'm a little behind. I need to go back through the last few weeks. It's been a busy few weeks.
I can only imagine, but at a body weight of, and correct me if I'm wrong, at a body weight of 134 pounds, you've got listed, maybe it's not what it is right now, but it's listed as your lifetime best back squat was 518 pounds.
Yeah, 240 kilos. Let me do the math real quick. Make sure that's no, I guess I didn't. I guess I haven't logged it yet, but now it's 529 pounds.
Okay, 529 pound back squat at 134 pounds of body weight is
Well, when I'm outside of competition, I
okay.
do
What do
beef
you
up
balloon
some.
up to when you're outside of competition?
Uh, Closer to 140, 145.
Okay, we're split. I mean, we're splitting hairs. That's between a 3.5 and a 4 times, like it's in that neighborhood of you know 3.5 times body weight back squat, and a bit more than that actually. Those are strength numbers, like a back squat in the low 500s. You usually don't see outside of like a very. I'm not talking about like the world of Olympic lifting, but like somebody into fitness. You're strong, fit, fast, and you're probably in the neighborhood of 200 pounds is what a male's weighing, and that's like a really great back squat. You're like, whoa, you back squatted 500 pounds, and the dude's 200 pounds. How there are people watching this that are like, I want a 500-pound back squat. How did this person do it at like 135 to 140 pounds? So could you just chat? If you were to try to impart back squat knowledge to people because they love that lift. Are there any pearls of wisdom that you would share?
um, I mean, for back squat specifically, uh, I'm not really sure.
Do you
Um,
just squat all the time? And what's going on?
yeah, I squat a lot. Uh,
Okay, over the course of a week, how many training days are we talking out of 7 days? And how many of those days do you think you're squatting?
yeah, so I train 6 days a week. Um, I squat. Let me think. Usually Mondays, Tuesdays, light day on Friday, then heavy on Saturday. So
Okay.
usually I'd call it 3.5 times a week because Fridays are everything's light.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, interesting. I mean, that's absolutely tremendous. A tremendous back squat number. When you look over your lifts, is there any one that one's going to jump out at a lot of people? But is there
Mhm.
one that you're the most proud of, or is your favorite? Like when you walk into the gym, it just puts a smile on your face every time.
I mean, back squats are a lot of fun, uh,
Okay.
but I'm also I also hold a world record clean and jerk, so it's hard to not really like that.
That's, I mean, absolutely unbelievable. And I've got your clean and jerk here, and maybe it's different than what you've got recently, But I'll go off, for sure, because my stats might be a bit old on BTWB. So what's your best clean and jerk there?
In training, it's 180 kilos, which is just shy of 400 pounds.
396 pounds. And again, at
Yeah.
61 kilograms of body weight. That's crazy to me. That's a great deadlift for somebody who's like very fit. Like a 400-pound deadlift is bragging rights, like to your friends. You're just about at four wheels to pick that up off the ground and to just launch it into the sky, to wedge your body underneath of it and then stand up is so astonishingly impressive to me. Like, just hats off to you. You
In
obviously.
competition,
Oh, in
in
competition, what?
competition, my best clean and jerk is, or in competition at 61 kilo body weight, my best clean and jerk is 388 pounds, which was a world record.
Man, that and does when your PR lifter whatnot now tips the scales into a world record, because maybe I'm sure before you hit the world record you were improving, which is always fantastic, and then you hit a world record. Does that world record lift just feel different when you lock that sucker out and you see that everybody gave it a thumbs up?
Yeah. I mean, that entire competition was amazing. That moment was just incredible. But so I'm just going to run you through
Please.
everything that led up to that. Um, so I hit that lift in Thailand at the IWF World Cup at the beginning of April. Um, that was the last Olympic qualifying event for the quad, and my dad told me that if we know for sure going into my competition that I would be on the Olympic team, then we'd just go for something really big and have a lot of fun. Um, about an hour before, uh, about an hour before I started lifting, um, the B session from a weight class was going on, and my dad told me that because of how the numbers shook out, I would officially be going to Paris. Um, and so I'd hit that 180 kilo clean and jerk in training ahead of Thailand, so I knew 100% that it would be a possibility to have a
Mm-hmm.
world record on the bar. Um, and so I already was anticipating that. Um, then in the competition, I actually got my first clean and jerk was a no lift.
Oh, really?
It's 169 kilos if I remember right. It was a press out. Um,
And does that rattle you or no?
no, I'd sat for a while. I kind of rationalized it like that. I just told myself, uh, uh, as I was getting ready for the second lift, we bumped up to 171. I was just telling myself, just make the clean and stick the jerk, stick the lockout. Because I knew I was plenty strong enough for it. Knew, I was feeling really good. Um, so went up to the 171. I made the clean and I stuck the jerk. And in that moment, I knew that I was going to make the world record
Oh, that's awesome. You
before
just knew it.
before it was even loaded on the bar. Uh,
It was just one of those days where it just felt great.
absolutely. And then after that, after I made that lift, um, went up to 176 for the world record. Um, and as I was chalking up, uh, the entire Thai cheering section, the home team cheering section, who is always Thailand's cheering section is always amazing. They're always super coordinated. Like chants, lots of like decorations, just a lot of energy. They're a lot of fun. Um, and there were a few people that were like really, really kind of over the top with it, like full
Okay.
on face paint.
Nice.
Uh, it was just really fun. And the entire Thai cheering section was chanting USA, 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 and it was
That's
amazing.
so cool.
That is that entire moment leading up to that lift and taking it, making it, knowing that I broke in a world record. Um, Honestly, is one of probably is my favorite moments in my entire career. Just or
Understandably so. That's incredible.
definitely one of my favorite moments. There is one other that comes to mind, but
Well,
just
two questions. Number one,
incredible.
how much did that how much does the crowd play a role? Like, do you prefer stone silence, or did that fire you up when you were walking out there and it felt even better?
It absolutely fired me up, but I that's one thing that can get in my head sometimes. I need to not be thinking about the pressure from the crowd
Mm.
too much.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that is something that I have learned recently can absolutely mess me up.
And what is the other moment that leapt into your head? I'd love to hear the story.
Yeah, so it was Senior Worlds in Saudi Arabia. Um, was it trying to remember? It was towards the end of last year, if I remember right. Um, and so this was right in the middle of Olympic qualification. Um, and we really kind of pushed it every meet, trying to get me higher up the ranking for qualification. Um, but at this meet, I actually bombed out in the snatches.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Um, so I had, there was no way for me to advance on the Olympic qualification ranking because of that. And my dad just looked at me and said, "Do you want a clean and jerk? You want to go for something?" And I said, "Yeah." And just forgot about the snatches, just focused on what was in my control. Um, and let me think. Again, I missed one of my clean and jerks. Made my last one, which was 166, I think. Um, and that was one of the that was I think the second to last lift of the entire session.
Okay.
And so that lift put me in first for clean and jerk. And the last lifter was Lee Fabin, the reigning champion of the weight class for he's been the best for years. Um, and again, is still he's number one on the Olympic qualification ranking by um, I think 11 kilos.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so very much the favorite to win the Olympics in the weight class. Um, but I'd made my last clean and jerk. He was about to take his last clean and jerk to try to beat me. He stood it up and kind of stumbled, and then he missed it.
Oh, really?
In that moment of that was so just a little extra context. Before that, the U.S. had not had a man win a gold medal at a senior world championships in over 50 years.
Oh, wow.
So just that moment of breaking that streak, taking home a gold medal after bombing out in the snatches, it really always stands out to me. I think
That's
that
pretty
one is my
legit.
favorite
That's
moment.
pretty legit.
It's one of the most emotional moments in my life. Uh,
You know, this sport, the sport of weightlifting is something which obviously you're intimately familiar with, but I feel confident saying that it's still very relatively unknown in, a lot of people can name a basketball player, they can't name an Olympic weightlifter, you know? So where it's obviously, I'm going to make the assumption that it's been more popular for longer and with a greater appeal in countries outside of the US than inside the US, although it seems to be gaining momentum significantly.
Absolutely.
Where, in your opinion, being an expert in the sport and obviously what's going on with American weightlifters compared to everybody else, where do you feel that America falls these days in the overall scheme of worldwide weightlifting?
Like in terms of like popularity
Oh, no,
or
competitiveness, like holding our own with other
competitiveness.
countries.
Um, I mean, on the women's side, we have, I'd say, one of the best teams. Um, we're consistently, um, women's team is consistently in the top five on the team rankings. Uh, if I'm remembering it right,
Mm-hmm.
um, China's China is just an absolute powerhouse. It's hard. It's gonna be very, very hard to dethrone them on the men or the women's side.
So China walks into the room, all eyes are like, okay, these are
Yeah,
these are
they're the
people.
ones to beat.
Yep.
Um, the our women's team is very, very competitive. The men's side, I feel like we're catching up, but we still have a decent amount of ground to make up.
Are you seeing more interest in the sport of weightlifting since you've been doing it since you're 12? Like with every year that goes by, there are more. Is it just does it seem to be more people showing up to training camps, taking interest in it, and throwing their hat in the ring, or is it still very much a sport that doesn't get the attention it deserves or needs?
I'd I'd say a little bit of both. Like we're definitely like gaining momentum, um, particularly from CrossFit. CrossFit, uh, the popularity of CrossFit brought a lot of people to weightlifting, um, particularly in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, there's plenty of people who start doing CrossFit, fall in love with Olympic weightlifting, stop doing CrossFit, and just pour their heart and soul into weightlifting.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel it definitely could still be a much more popular sport. Um,
But it's gaining, it's
mm,
increasing anyway.
yeah, I feel like as as we become more competitive internationally, uh, more people will be drawn to the sports,
Mm-hmm.
uh, which again will make us even more competitive internationally. As you know, um, as more talent comes into the sport, and there's more opportunity for people within the country to compete with each other, and
Mm-hmm.
the saying goes, rising tides raise all ships.
100%.
So I'm excited to see where the sport goes or
What's
continues to go.
You're 20 years old. What's quote unquote old for a weightlifter?
Um, so at the absolute highest level, you don't see many people over the age of 30.
Okay.
Um,
As a general rule.
as a very general rule,
Okay. Okay.
um, especially lighter weight classes. Lighter weight classes peak younger, heavier weight classes peak older.
Okay. Gotcha.
Again, generally,
Sure.
generally speaking.
So you're obviously intimately familiar with the sport. You talked about this other gentleman that you competed against. He missed the jerk and all. You know everyone that's going on. I'm sure you know it was 11 kilos or whatever it happened to be. So I'm sure you've got a really good idea and a sense of the lay of the land and who you're going to be facing off with rolling up to Paris. So given that, um, where do you allow your mind to, like, have you played out certain things? This is what I'm going after. I'd be happy with this. This would make me unhappy. Like, do you have certain goals going in, or is it just control what you can control? I'll lift what I lift that day. Where it shakes out, it shakes out.
Yeah, absolutely try to. Um, so thinking about numbers is one of the worst things
Okay.
I can do. Um, really, what I need to do is just make lifts
Mm-hmm.
and just have a good day for me. I need to make lifts, have fun, and you know, whatever happens, happens. And I just need to be happy with that.
And how early in advance are you showing up to, like when you're showing up to Paris, you get opening ceremonies, then is your competition soon, or are you going to be there for weeks before it goes down?
Yeah, so weightlifting is actually one of the last events or one of the last sports in the Olympics. Um,
You'll have plenty of time to get acclimated to that time zone.
yeah, so I leave for Paris in the middle of July. I'm there for 3 weeks before I compete.
Okay.
Um,
Get
get
to
to
see
do
all the
the opening
sights.
ceremonies about like 9 or 10 days or 8 or 9 days after I get there. Uh, then gonna have a few more days to really enjoy the setting of the Olympics. Um, enjoy getting to be there. Then we're gonna really cut off all distractions, put the blinders on, just focus on preparing me for the competition. Then I
Okay.
compete on August 7th.
Okay. Because that was a
Then I'll
question I
have
had was I'm sure there's pros and cons to different schedules, right? Like maybe if you
yep,
compete the next day, maybe you can't really enjoy opening ceremonies because you want to get back to bed or something. I don't know, like you don't want to be out just burning it down till midnight or something like that. But
yeah,
I would think as somebody who's watched the Olympics for so long, and I love people, representing the United States, like it means a lot to me. Opening ceremonies seem
exhausting.
so exhausting, but like it's
Yeah,
such a spectacle that I would think it's going to be really cool that you're going to get to be there and just like soak it all in. Talk about a once in a lifetime experience. Opening ceremonies are
absolutely.
crazy.
Yeah, I'm I'm very very grateful that we're so late on the schedule. Uh, just so that I do get to enjoy that before I need to focus on competing. Um,
Well,
and then I even have a few more days after I compete to
nice.
enjoy, watch other competitions, uh, cheer on my teammates, go to the closing ceremonies.
That'd be
Um,
very, very awesome.
yeah,
Well, let
gonna have that
people
fun.
know. Um, Anytime I get to talk to somebody, a lot of our audience is like a CrossFit audience, but we have
Yeah,
more and more of a diverse audience from powerlifters, weightlifters, bodybuilders, somebody who just does high rocks, like more and more, which is great. And I actually love, we've interviewed so many CrossFit people that like, anytime I get to talk to somebody who's in some world outside of that, that's great because it's an opportunity to learn about somebody that's still got a barbell in their hands, still chasing, strength and conditioning, but in a particular way. So in order to learn from you a bit, would you mind, you don't have to go into extraordinary detail, but give us a brief overview. You mentioned that you'd squat, let's say 3.5 times a week.
Yeah.
But what does you said you train 6 days a week. Could you give us like just a gentle walkthrough of what does a week of training look like for you? Particular lifts you might do? Is it, certain percentages on some days and other days? How long does it take you to train a particular day? What does a week look like in your
Yeah.
life of training?
Um, so usually I'm in the gym uh, between 4 and 6 hours a day training. About an hour of that is warm up and getting ready to lift.
Okay.
Um, so um, Sunday through Wednesday, I think of as like working days.
Okay.
Um, Sunday, Sundays I usually do some variation of snatch and clean and jerk. So usually block snatches or and block cleans or hang snatches and hang cleans. Um, I do I do some kind of clean and some kind of snatch every day.
Okay.
Um, so Sundays are usually hangs or blocks. Mondays,
And does the loading vary from day to day?
um, yeah, but it really varies throughout throughout my
Okay.
training cycle.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um, so then Mondays are usually again snatch and clean and jerk. Uh, Sometimes it's like blocks or hangs. Sometimes it's like no foot snatches or something like that. Sometimes it's powers. Um,
So I don't want to interrupt your train of thought, but I have a question. So let's say on one of those particular days, you say you're in the gym 4 to 6 hours, but an hour that is warming up. Are you in the gym for that long extended period of time because you're doing like an absolutely tremendous amount of volume and repetitions, or is it a lower amount of volume and repetitions that requires more rest time between how frequently you touch the bar?
yeah, so I do rest a l- I do take a decent amount of rest. I'd say I rest more than I should, and that's something that my dad has been getting on me about lately. Uh,
how many minutes might you rest between, touching the bar?
yeah, at lighter weights, I set a 2 minute timer. At heavier weights, I set a 3 minute timer.
Okay.
Um, then squats have their um, own
Different cadence for squats
right. Um,
with more rest?
yes, yeah, more rest for squats, but I um, I lose a lot of time in the like getting up to the bar, then getting loaded after I take the reps and getting back to my seat. I should be a lot more diligent about it.
Hey,
That's a
we all
weakness
have
of
areas
mine.
to improve. It's okay.
Yeah. Um, then I also take a lot of time um, between exercises. Again, more time than I should. Um, that's something that I'm trying to be better about.
Gotcha. Okay, then.
Uh,
So you said you basically snatch or clean and jerk darn near every day,
right.
and then
Just in some variation.
three of those days also include squats.
Right. So I usually squat Mondays. Then Tuesdays, I usually have banded front squats in the morning. Then jerks and drop snatches out of the blocks in the afternoon. Um, Sometimes we'll change it up a little bit, but it's usually front squats. Then Wednesday is one of my harder days, one of my heavier days, and that's complexes, heavy complexes, and that's I usually do snatch lift off, then some number of snatches, 1, 2, or 3, depending on where I am in my cycle. Then an overhead squat, and we drop pieces of the complex as I get heavier.
Okay.
Then for clean and jerks, I usually do 2 cleans plus a jerk.
Okay.
And sometimes that's working sets at some weight. Sometimes it's just go as heavy as I can. And when I go heavy with that, a lot of times I'll just go for a clean and jerk double. So I've hit a few clean and jerk double PRs doing that.
Nice.
Then sometimes I'll do 3 cleans plus a jerk after that. Sometimes I'll do pulls. Then Thursday is my recovery day. I have I'll get into the recovery after I get into training. Friday is super easy morning session, in and out in like 2.5, 3 hours.
Okay. Okay.
Really just to get me moving, make sure everything's moving well after the recovery day. Then Saturday is my heavy day. That's just heavy snatches, heavy clean and jerks, heavy squats. Sometimes I'll move the squats from Saturday to Sunday. Then pretty much all of my free time goes into recovery work.
I can imagine.
Which really is what we feel sets me apart. It's so easy to find people that are willing to give tons of effort in the gym, in training on the platform. It's hard to find people that are willing to give up their free time outside of the gym to, prep themselves for the next training session, recover, eat well, all the time. The recovery is what really can make or break someone.
It's what allows you to do what you do during those other training days.
Exactly.
Can you give us a glimpse into what are some of your recovery protocols that you think really move the needle in a positive direction?
Yeah. So I see my physical therapist and my massage therapist every week, and that's on Thursdays. Every once in a while, I'll see one of them a second time that week on Monday, usually. Then spend a lot of my free time doing like body work. I get in the sauna most every day. I have a cold plunge that I should be using more often than I do, but I still
Cold plunge is all
still
the
use
rage
it.
these days, so we need to know what's the temperature of the cold plunge and how long are you in there?
Yeah, it. I mean, it depends on the day. It'll get as low as 38 degrees,
Ooh, okay,
but I
all
never
right.
do it higher than 50.
Okay, all right. Whew.
Yeah, 38 degrees is rough.
Special.
That is tough. Um, yeah, and the length of time that I do it depends on the day.
Makes sense. Yep, makes
Um,
sense. And anything else outside of the cold plunge?
I do use the sauna a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a hyperbaric chamber in my house, which really kind of Um, it like amplifies the body's natural recovery mechanisms. I'd say is a good way to phrase the effect it has.
Okay.
Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Um, Food is a very, very important, I'd say probably the most important aspect of recovery. Um, and one of the hardest parts of what I do.
I was going to say, is
Um,
eating clean easy for you, or do you have a sweet tooth that you always have to battle with?
it's it can be really hard keeping disciplined like when I feel like I'm missing out on things.
Oh, you're 20
You know?
years old, man. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Your friends aren't. Yeah, well, you said you obviously have a lot of weightlifting friends. I'm sure you rub elbows with some civilians that don't have to,
yeah.
be quite as rigorous as you
Well,
are living your life.
honestly, it's like just when my family uh, uh it's more about what my family eats than
Okay,
than
you've got a
anybody
different
else. Just
plate of
because
food.
I do not leave the house at all except for the recovery
Mm-hmm.
days. Um, so just to kind of help me with that, my family's actually gave me my own kind of like kitchen area in a different room of the house. I've got a mini fridge, a microwave, my whole coffee bar set up. Um, keep all my food in there so that I don't need to just just to kind of mitigate the temptation of like
I'll
when I'm
tell
going
you.
into the fridge to grab my lunch or something. It's just
I tell you,
what I
Hampton.
eat is right there.
I think this is all the stuff that's the behind the scenes stuff that people just see what you do when you walk out to the platform. They
Exactly.
don't see all the training and the hours and the body work and the sacrifices and the nutrition and the cold plunge and the like that's
Yeah.
all the other pieces of the puzzle that, like you said, are so mission critical, but the camera doesn't usually see those. It just
Right.
sees, walked out there, hit a lift and walked off. That's cool. I like to lift. I like to lift too. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not, that's not quite it. But that's also why you're in the position that you're willing to do all those things, which
Yeah.
most people probably wouldn't be willing to do for more than about a week.
Yeah.
And
A
you've
lot of people
decided to
just
make
don't
it for
think about it.
years. Right.
Yeah.
And that's why you're going to be heading over to Paris, which is incredible. So maybe, to kind of to close out, maybe to let people know Paris is coming up fast. People they want to follow you, support you, find you in your journey. What are great ways for them to do that?
Yeah. So my Instagram handle is Hampton Morris. There's no punctuation or anything. Um, got uh, post videos from training all the time, almost every day. Um, all my sponsor links and everything are posted there. Um, that's really the best way. And then for anyone that's interested in watching me while I'm competing in Paris, uh, I think that Peacock is streaming
Okay.
everything. And I'm going to be lifting at 9 a.m. Eastern time on August 7th.
Awesome. 100% awesome, man. Well, genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, man, appreciate your time, appreciate you representing the United States, and wish you 100% nothing but the best and success.
So much.